Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through articles, research, all sorts of notes, really, and boil it down to what you need to know, fast. Today, we're tackling something that's honestly, it's everywhere, and it's just devastating. Online scams. I mean, the scale here is, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Cybercriminals. Over $1 trillion stolen globally in 2024. Just staggering.
It really is.
And if you're listening in the U.S., well, we're prime targets, unfortunately. Americans lose about $3,500 per incident on average. That's like double the losses in China.
Yeah.
But the thing that really jumped out at me, investment scams. They're the fastest growing type, up almost 40% just year over year.
That's exactly why we're diving deep today. Our mission really is to unpack how these things work.
Yeah.
Especially these romance scams, which, often they're just a front for investment fraud. We need to get into how victims get pulled in so effectively and what it actually costs them financially and, well, personally. It's deep.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, these aren't just tech tricks. They really dig into basic human stuff. Wanting connection, feeling vulnerable, maybe financial stress.
Exactly. And to really get a handle on this, we're using a first-hand account as our anchor today. It's a story reported by Joel Kay at Wired. It's about a woman, we'll call her Evelyn. She was 48, now 50. And what makes her story so important and maybe a bit unsettling for listeners is that Evelyn saw herself as pretty tech-savvy. Logical.
She knew the risks.
Yeah, she thought she was immune. But her experience just shows so clearly that intelligence, it doesn't protect you from these attacks. They're sophisticated. They're emotionally manipulative. It's a real wake-up call that, yeah, this could happen to anyone, even you listening right now. So, okay, let's set the scene for Evelyn. What was going on in her life?
Well, she'd just come out of a 20-year relationship. Huge change.
Massive.
She said it felt like it came out of nowhere, just completely unraveled everything. She was dealing with early retirement, had to move out of her long-term home.
Yeah.
Basically starting over.
A really vulnerable time. Totally. You can imagine the stress, right? Especially the financial side. She wasn't in a good place, emotionally or practically speaking. And it's right then in that fragile state that she goes on Hinge, the dating app, matches with this guy, profile name Bruce. At first, it's, pretty normal chat. Movie is what they liked. But it ramped up fast.
How fast?
Like really fast with the affectionate texts. Stuff like, really enjoyed chatting with you, not interested in anyone else. He also made himself sound successful.
The setup.
Right.
Yeah.
Claimed he had places in Sunnyvale and Beverly Hills, so sounded well off, and crucially, it placed him in L.A. Evelyn didn't want long distance, so that clicked. He seemed, smart, kind, like he genuinely cared.
And you see how perfectly that plays on her situation.
Yeah.
Scams like this, they absolutely thrive when people are feeling isolated or under financial pressure. And we saw this explode after the pandemic started. I mean, 2021, fraud just went through the roof. People lost, what was it, $550 million, up 80% from the year before. Yeah, it was this perfect storm.
Yeah.
More isolation, more online interaction. And there's a point made by Gareth Norris, a psychology lecturer, scams behind a screen, they can be more effective.
How so?
Because all those little tells you might pick up in person, like someone sweating or fidgeting when they lie.
Yeah.
Gone. Hidden by the screen.
Makes sense.
And David Modick, he's a computer science professor, he really nails it. Falling for a scam has nothing to do with how smart you are. Zero connection.
Right. That's key.
It's all about the scammer, twisting your personal situation, the breakup, money worries, just loneliness, to basically wear down your self-control and make you miss the red flags.
Yeah.
They're experts in manipulating behavior.
So Bruce establishes this connection, seems caring. Then what? Well, pretty quickly, he gets her to move their chat off Hinge and onto WhatsApp. That becomes like their only way of talking.
Another common tactic, isolating the conversation.
Exactly. And then he starts dropping hints about crypto investment. Says he runs a studio on the side, doing currency exchanges, making good money. Then he points her to this website, SaleeGM.com, she thinks it was called. And this wasn't some, dodgy-looking site. No, she said it looked totally legit, colorful professional footers, even a live support chat. Not, as she put it, like a 1990s website. Looked real. So Evelyn starts small, maybe $1,000, $2,000, moves it over from her Coinbase account.
Okay, using existing crypto funds.
Yeah, so she figured low risk, right? Money she already had in crypto. Bruce is feeding her lines, like his team studies the trends. They know when the peaks are coming.
Peaks, right.
Yeah, like the next peak is in 2 days. Now, maybe if you're deep in finance, that sounds fishy, but Evelyn knew some coins move on news, so she thought, okay, maybe. And she sees a couple $100 in return, small wins. But then, and this is crucial, she decides to test it herself, tries to withdraw some money.
And this is a classic manipulation. That small, successful withdrawal she made, that was probably the hook.
How do you mean?
She went through the steps, pulled out some funds, right? Even took screenshots, notes. Thought she was being careful, setting up an emergency plan.
Yeah, she did.
But that's success. That's the scammer letting you win a small hand. She saw it as a big green light, proving it was all safe. It's just like a gambler. Winning a bit early on makes you feel secure, makes you want to bet more, go all in, even.
Wow. Devious.
It is. And the really striking thing is how systematic it all is. There's this researcher, Adrian Check, security guy. He says the methods are almost identical across these scams. Basically, some big cybercrime group builds a template, a fake crypto site like Sim, and then farms it out to smaller affiliates for a cut.
So it's like a franchise model for fraud.
Pretty much. Check found at least 439 different web addresses hosting that same Sim exchange. It's absolutely textbook, he says. And it's not just him. California's own financial protection agency. They've flagged almost identical scams. Capital Handle System, ICE crypto trading app, Topex, GCC Money. Loads of them.
Unbelievable.
And these sites, they don't just look real. They often pipe in actual real-time market data, carefully selected, of course, to make it look like your money is genuinely growing. It creates this total illusion.
And that illusion, plus being able to pull out that first bit of cash, that obviously pulled Evelyn in deeper.
Absolutely.
Bruce kept pushing. More money means higher returns, right? That was the line. And eventually, she gave in, drained her savings, even dipped into her IRA, her retirement money.
Oh, no. How much are we talking?
All told, around $300,000 poured into this fake website.
300,000. Just devastating.
Yeah. And looking back now, she sees the little red flags she missed or, explained away.
Like what?
Well, Bruce had an accent. Didn't think much of it. They never had a video call, only texts, a few phone calls.
No video. That's a big one.
Huge. She wanted to meet, but he always had an excuse, in a couple of weeks. But the whole scam didn't even last long enough for her to get really pushing about it. And this is chilling. He sent her a photo once, supposedly his office, his team, working hard.
Let me guess.
Later, after it all fell apart, she did a reverse image search, the photo, 2 years old, from some other fraudulent company's Twitter feed.
Wow.
And maybe the biggest flag she did notice, but too late. The first time she put in a really large amount, the return was just ridiculous, she said.
Too good to be true.
Exactly. She actually thought, no way. Not because she lost money, but because she made so much, so fast. Her gut knew something was wrong then. So the final act. She finally tries to withdraw the $300,000, follows her careful steps. Nothing. Tries smaller amounts. Still nothing.
The trap springs. Yep.
Yeah. She messages the site support chat. They tell her she needs to deposit another 15% of her account value to prove legitimacy before she can withdraw her money.
Unbelievable. The nerve.
Her blood ran cold, she said. She immediately confronts Bruce, asks him what this fee is, and his reply. Just ice-cold nonchalance. Oh, didn't I tell you? Yeah, that's their policy.
Oh, my gosh.
That was the moment she knew he was in on it. Then he actually tried to get her to borrow money to pay the fake fee. She just cut off all contact right there.
God, the betrayal. So what happens then? For Evelyn, for victims like her, well, the aftermath is often just this crushing wave of shame, embarrassment. It stops so many people from even telling anyone.
I can only imagine.
And getting the money back. The odds are incredibly slim. Law enforcement, local police, FBI, they're overwhelmed. These cases are global, complex. Info is hard to verify. And crypto just makes tracing it incredibly difficult.
It just vanishes.
Pretty much. Canalysys, a company that helps track crypto, looked at Evelyn's case. Her funds were instantly split, sent to multiple wallets, cashed out through exchanges all over the world, mixed with other stolen money, swapped for different tokens. It shows a really high level of organization, all designed to muddy the trail.
So sophisticated.
Very. And a former cybercrime prosecutor, Nicolia Stab, she confirmed it. Investigations actually prosecuting someone, stopping these operations. It's rare. Not enough resources, not enough expertise.
That's bleak.
And then sickeningly, there are recovery scammers who pop up, targeting victims again, promising to get the money back for an upfront fee, just pouring salt in the wound.
That's awful.
But let's zoom out even further, because there's an even darker layer to this. Who are these scammers on the other end of the line?
It's not just one guy like Bruce?
Not always. Often it's organized crime.
Yeah.
They develop these detailed scripts, playbooks, and then they outsource the actual scanning work to, well, inexperienced people. And this is the truly horrifying part. Those people doing the scamming, they're often victims themselves. Trafficked, forced into labor in these scam compounds.
What? Where?
Mostly Southeast Asia historically, but increasingly places like Dubai too. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people lured with fake job offers, then trapped, forced to scam people overseas if they refuse, if they try to escape. They're beaten, tortured, worse.
My God. I had no idea. There was a ProPublica investigation back in 2022 that really exposed this. They told the story of a young guy, Fawn, 22, from China. He got lured by a fake marketing job in Cambodia, even got his brother to come along, but when they got there, total sham. Held captive, forced to scam.
Horrifying.
Fawn was actually sold twice in 2022. Each time, his debt, what they claimed he owed them, went up from $7,000 to $15,500 in a country where the average income is like $1,600 a year.
Trapped. Utterly trapped.
ProPublica even found traffickers using Telegram to sell people. Ads like selling a Chinese man, typing very slow. It's just gut-wrenching. And think about Evelyn learning this. That initial fury at the person who scammed her, suddenly it gets tangled up with this awful thought that whoever he is himself could be a victim too.
It adds this layer of just profound tragedy to the whole thing. It's not just victim and perpetrator, it's potentially victims scamming victims under duress. And looking ahead, the threat isn't shrinking, it's actually amplifying.
Yeah.
And the big driver now, AI. Artificial intelligence is supercharging these scams.
How is AI making it worse?
Well, a few key ways. One, language barriers are dissolving. AI writing tools like ChatGPT. They let criminals create really convincing scam messages, emails, website text, whatever, in tons of different languages. That vastly expands their reach.
So more believable scams in more languages.
Exactly. But maybe the even bigger shift is deepfakes. Machine learning can now do real-time face swapping on video calls.
Wait, so the person on the video call might not be who they look like?
Precisely. A scammer can make themselves look like someone else, entirely someone trustworthy, maybe using stolen photos or videos to create the fake persona. This is a huge game changer for them in terms of proving a fake identity.
That's terrifying.
And it gets worse. Stephanie Baruch, she's an analyst at Interpol, points out AI is even making the recruitment for trafficking more effective. Those fake job ads used to be full of errors, kind of obvious sometimes. Now AI polishes them up, makes them look totally legitimate and appealing. It's getting much more difficult to identify which is the real and which is the fake ads.
So AI helps them scam people and helps them traffic the people who are forced to do the scamming.
It's a vicious cycle, amplified by technology.
So back to Evelyn. Where is she now? A year and a half on. Financially, she's worse off than before she started. She thinks about this game every single day. Still feels that deep shame.
Understandably.
But the reason she shared her story, her real motivation, is to warn people. Especially people like her who thought, I was pretty well prepared, I'm logical.
It couldn't happen to me.
Right. She wants everyone to understand it can happen to anyone. She thought she knew better than the old Nigerian prince emails. But these new scams, they're just on a completely different level.
Which brings us to the crucial part. What can you, listening now, do? How do you protect yourself? Look, there's no magic bullet, right? But there are definite red flags, big ones. A stranger contacts you totally out of the blue, gets friendly really fast. Red flag.
Okay.
Someone you meet online starts talking about investing, get rich quick stuff very early on. Huge red flag.
Got it.
Asking you to send money, pay for something for them, send a gift. Obvious red flag. And this one's key. If they push you hard to move the chat off the platform where you met, like from the dating app straight to WhatsApp or Telegram, be very careful. That's often about isolating you.
Right, control the environment.
Exactly. Yeah. And fundamentally, trust your intuition. If something feels off, it probably is. Just pause, take a breath, think about what's happening. And if it does happen to you or someone you know, talk about it, please. Silence helps the scammers.
How does talking help?
The more awareness there is, the more pressure on law enforcement to dedicate resources. The more people recognize the tactics, the harder it is for these criminals to succeed. Sharing knowledge is crucial.
What a journey. This has been incredibly eye-opening and honestly quite sobering. We've seen the sheer sophistication, the psychological manipulation,
The human cost.
the devastating human cost, absolutely. On both sides, the targets losing everything and the trafficked people forced into this. And now AI is just throwing gasoline on the fire.
Which leaves us with a really challenging thought, doesn't it? As our lives get more digital, as AI gets woven into everything, how do we stay vigilant? How do we protect ourselves without just becoming completely cynical about every interaction?
Right, especially when these scams target such basic human needs like connection, like security.
What's our collective responsibility here in sharing what we know and having these tough conversations to fight back against this constantly evolving threat?
Really powerful questions to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's heavy stuff, but so important. We really hope you'll reflect on this and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. Stay aware and stay safe.